The Toronto Blue Jays have their most important series of the year playing right now, and they managed to lay an egg. They just didn't show up in these three games thus far against the Texas Rangers, and they're on the verge of being swept right now. Now, they're still a game and a half out of a playoff spot. They're still in it. They still have a chance to make the playoffs, but they're going to have to play nearly perfect baseball from here on out, and they're going to need some help along the way. It's a situation that they didn't want to have to be in, but they find themselves in as we speak. So we'll break that down and much more in this episode of Jay's Digest. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. And if this continues the way that it's been going for the Toronto Blue Jays, and we don't want to keep taking the negative spin, but changes are going to happen over the course of the offseason, Nick. And changes are going to happen right away because clearly this team has not shown the pushback that you would have liked. Clearly, this team is just not the right collection of talent to go ahead and win a championship. And I, I want to believe that they've tried. I want to believe that they've given their best effort and that they have given it their all out there on that field, but it just doesn't look like it at times, and they look lifeless in that dugout. I mean, the crowd was also evident of that. It was empty. It was empty in the first three games of this series. Hopefully, there's a better turnout today, but there are no excuses for this team. They just have not been able to get the job done, Nick.
Yeah, it's been very, very disappointing. And we had a video yesterday kind of discussing it. And I said personally that yesterday's game was huge and they needed to win the next two in the series to, ultimately really have a good chance. And, well, they lost 10-0, which we'll break down. But before we do, make sure you hit the subscribe button and we're on the road to 8,300. Peter, I don't even know where you want to start with this. The Jays, we'll discuss some of the changes that we think are going to be coming because huge changes are going to come. And whether they make the playoffs or not, I think it's pretty clear that this team is not the one that can win a championship. And I also think it's pretty clear that some changes are, needed to be made, whether that's players, whether that's coaching, whether it's probably a mix of both. And it was just evident by yesterday. And some people and reporters who were at the game, they didn't really hold back on Twitter yesterday. Twitter, if you were a Jays fan and you were around there, was not a good place to be yesterday. The energy in this building all week has been playing out of the September string and far from anything I've seen in a legit playoff race. It's matched only by lack of energy in the dugout, just listless and, of course, also very, very lifeless. Peter, yesterday, the game was very, very, unfortunate. We were down 4-0 early after a big home run, and felt like we were, once Lowe hit that home run, felt like the Jays had no chance.
Yeah, I never do this, but I actually turned the game off when it was 6-0, and I always watch out the entirety of the games if I do get the opportunity to watch, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I chose my sanity last night. I chose to go ahead and do something more productive with my time because this team has just not shown up for these first three games. Now they swept the series against the Kansas City Royals coming into this. They looked like they were well on their way to grabbing some momentum. And like we've been repeating all year long, Nick, they just can't take the opportunities that have been presented to them. They can't make the most of those opportunities. They came in a game and a half ahead of the Texas Rangers coming into this series. They're now a game and a half behind them. And they lost a tiebreaker to the Rangers. They also lost a tiebreaker to the Mariners. So if they want to pass them, they're basically 2.5 games back of them. That's a lot of ground to make up. Now, I know we're still saying there's a lot of baseball to be played, and that's true in a sense. There's still 17 games left for the Toronto Blue Jays to make good until the rest of the season. But 17 games to make up 2.5 games essentially is not that much, and they're going to have to start waking up as of today. If they don't win today, I'm not feeling very confident about the outlook of the rest of the season. Now, I want them to make the playoffs as a fan. I want to see them go ahead and do some damage in the postseason because we've waited 5, 6 years for it, but 7 years for it. So it's been a while. It has been a while since we've seen this team make a magical run and encapsulate a whole country, encapsulate a whole fan base. I want to see it again. But at the same time, I don't want them to go into the season next year with the same exact roster just because they managed to win a playoff game or because they managed to sneak in. What's stopping the Blue Jays front office from saying, okay, this team can do it? They woke up late in the season. If they can carry that over to next season, I just don't believe in this current core that they have right now. I want to see some changes being made, and they need to be made as soon as that clock strikes midnight on this Blue Jay team.
Yeah, and I don't know for sure what changes can be made. I can't see. The issue is that they're not going to trade Vladimir Guerrero Jr. They're not going to obviously trade Bo Bichette, so they're handcuffed with the player moves they can make aside from maybe a big signing. But like you said, and we discussed off camera, they need to acquire a big name, another big name player this offseason, and who knows who that will be. And then they also need to change up the coaching staff. Will they fire John Schneider? Probably not, just because that would be the second time in like 2 years that they fired their manager after giving him a 3-year plus contract. So who knows? Moves are definitely going to come, but the way that they're going to come, we're a bit unsure about that. And who knows? Maybe Ross Atkins, could get let go as well. And I don't think that's going to be the case. But at this point, if we don't make the playoffs, and it's not looking like we're in a very good spot to at least do damage in the playoffs. And our goal this year coming into the season wasn't to make a wild card game. It was to at least make the ALCS, at least maybe even win the World Series. And the fact that we're discussing this right now in mid-September is very, very disappointing. And this, you touched on this earlier. They're 80 and 66 behind the Rays, the Rangers, and the Mariners. We don't hold either tiebreakers. So if Seattle goes 9 and 7, they finish 90 and 72. And basically, what this is saying is we have to go almost perfect throughout the rest of the season because our schedule is very, very rough against the Yankees and the Rays. I know the Yankees are scuffling; they're not that hard, but the way the Jays are playing, you may as well consider the Yankees the Houston Astros at this point, or the Braves. But I don't know, Peter. It's a bit rough. 10-0 yesterday, and Yusei Kikuchi. You can make some arguments. The umpire wasn't great. We didn't score a single run in unarguably the biggest game of the season. The Jays got booed, off the field there a little bit at the end, and Peter, it's a bit rough right now. It's a bit rough to be a Jays fan, and unfortunately, or I guess fortunately, there is still some baseball left. So if there's anything enjoy, I know it's tough watching the baseball because Peter, there's a very good chance in a couple weeks or 3 or 4 weeks, there's not going to be any baseball for Jays fans to watch, at least of their favorite team.
Yeah, and that's a very strong possibility, but it's the Jays that did it to themselves. And I don't want to sound like a broken record, but they've had so many opportunities to take a stranglehold of those final playoff spots and to go ahead and control their own destiny. But now they're putting their fate up in the arms of the other teams. They're preying on Seattle Mariners to lose. They're preying on the Texas Rangers to lose, and that's just not the way to go through a playoff race. You got to take care of business. And even if they do manage to sneak in a way where other teams help them out, or the Texas Rangers go on a 10-game losing streak, is that the team? Is that the way you really want to be entering the playoffs in? The Jays just haven't been able to play well. They haven't been able to have a sustained period of good baseball. And that's just what's been frustrating for me. They haven't been enjoyable to watch at any point of the season. And that's been the toughest part for me as a Jays fan. Like, I always love watching this team. I always turn on the TV, but sometimes you just wonder, what are they really doing out there? What's the ultimate goal out there? And it's just unfortunate. It's unfortunate that it had to play itself out this way. And changes are coming, Nick. Changes are coming. I don't know what changes. I don't know if it's in the front office. I don't know if it's in the coaching staff. I don't know if it's on the roster, but changes have to be made because something just isn't right with this current group of players. And there was such a focus of changing up the culture and making it more serious. But it seems as though in doing that, they just sucked the entire life out of the team. And the guys that they traded away are having good seasons. They're playing well. I'm not saying I'm angry with the trades that they made. I was a big fan of them at the time, and I'm still in on those trades. I still think they're going to work out in the long term. But look at the guys that they traded. Those are guys with a lot of charisma, with a lot of personality that kind of tied this franchise together, that kind of tied all these players together. And there's also one common denominator that we always mention amongst ourselves, Nick, and it's Marcus Simeon.
Yeah,
That was a guy that was a major leader on that 2021 team. You could even argue he was the leader of that
he
team, and
was. Yeah,
probably one he was the leader of that team, and probably the best player on that team, if not for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Unbelievable near triple crown winning season. And that was the Blue Jays' biggest mistake. It was letting that guy go because he's a legitimate top 10 player in the game. He's a leader in this game, and he's a guy that is on the field each and every day. Doesn't get hurt, and the Jays just let him walk for nothing. So that's something that's really resonated with me over the last couple of years. And letting a guy go like that, that's such a big part of your team, is a huge mistake.
yeah, and we're gonna see how it hurts them so much going forward. And Simeon was also Bo Bichette's kind of best friend on the team that year, so I don't know. That'll wrap up the video. Let us know what your thoughts are. I know you guys have been very, very vocal in the comment section. But at the end of the day, we have a game tonight. And if we win this, there's still a chance to make the playoffs. And again, we say this all the time. It's baseball. Who knows what will happen. But at the end of the day, unless we go ahead and win 2 or 3 playoff series, which is pretty unlikely the way this team has been playing right now, huge changes are coming. So we'll have them covered for you. But thank you guys for watching. And enjoy the game tonight to the best of your abilities.